Hi guys, I thought I'd do a little video on things that are different here in the Philippines compared to what we're used to in Europe. Before we do that, I just want to say thanks to the guys that gave me feedback on the mosquitoes. Got all sorts of responses. One, thank you to Diana for the Vic Vapor rub. That seems to help. Short term, but seems to help take the itching away. A bowl of vinegar in the room from Fabi, because that should attract the mozzies to that, as opposed to me. I know I'm tasty, but it's ridiculous the amount they keep biting me. I must have at least 20 bites. What was the other one? Hot spoons. Yeah, I think I tried that. It seems to take the sting away for a few seconds, but I think only the shock of the hot spoon on the skin. And to do it any longer, as opposed to having 20 mosquito bites, I'd have 20 burns. So to that one, I think that's what I think. So guys, getting back to the point of things that are different here compared to in Europe or the States. Maybe 10 or a dozen things that I've noticed, and none of this is criticism, it's just observations. So the first thing is animals. There's stray dogs all over the place here, on the roads, on the beaches, everywhere you go, and goats tied up beside the roadside, even cows, as in one of my other videos you'd have seen, cows tied up right beside the road, 2 minutes outside the city centre. Just things that we don't generally see in Europe, you know. Morning guys. Well, I'm 2 minutes outside of the city centre, Taglibaran, 2 minutes outside of the mall, and this is what we see beside kind of the main road into town. Not your everyday view in Europe or the States, is it? So here with a bit of a two-in-one shot. A tree which has obviously been ripped down by the typhoon that was here in December and devastated all sorts of places. And goats tied up in the front garden. And again, you don't really get that in the front garden in Europe, do you? Cockerel. I mean, we're literally right beside the road. That's the danger of riding a scooter here, the dogs. Yeah. The one thing I noticed here at 7 o'clock this morning was a noise, music blaring out at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was a couple of minutes later I realised there's a church 100 yards up the road, and that's where it was coming from. Well, I was aware that karaoke and videoke is super popular here. Every man and their dog loves to do karaoke and videoke here in the Philippines. But even the church, and this is a very religious country, 80% Catholic. It's the only Christian country in Asia, and the 5th largest Christian population in the world, I believe. But yeah, at 7 o'clock in the morning, the local church is blaring out happy clappy songs, which, you know, I don't know where you live, but certainly in most parts of the UK, and I'm sure most of Europe, you'd get some snowflake complaining to the council about noise pollution or something. But here everyone's quite happy with it, and I'm sure most of the villagers were probably even there at the church. One of the obvious ones here, of course, is the transport. In most of the Philippines, they have jeepneys, which is old converted jeeps from the 50s that they've elongated and made big enough to seat up to 20 people. And they're a very cheap and common form of transport here. The motorised trikes, which again are pretty common. Depends on which part of the Philippines you are, which you get more of, whether it's jeepneys or trikes, whatever. Here in Bohol, there's more trikes, although there are a few jeepneys around. And of course, scooters everywhere. So of course, food, that's something which is quite different here. The locals ate rice with everything, and just plain boiled rice usually. Whether it's breakfast, lunch or dinner, it's rice. And if you go in McDonald's or KFC, instead of having fries with your meal, more often than not, the choice on the menu board is rice, although you can get fries. But one of the other big things here is Jollibee, which you may not know of, but Jollibee is the biggest fast food brand here in the Philippines. Started here in about 1975, 78. It's massive, and although they are outside of the Philippines because they've expanded into various other countries, they're relatively unknown still in Europe. I believe there's about 10 in Europe now. There's one in Spain, a couple in Italy, and apparently there's 7 in the UK, and they're looking to expand and open about 20 branches in the next year or so. Some of the interesting things they do, I mean, they do burgers like McDonald's, etc. They do chicken, kind of KFC style, but they have some strange combinations. You know, they'll do a burger with spaghetti. Of course, they'll serve the obligatory plain boiled rice with everything. But yeah, that's quite a phenomenon. And it started as an ice cream shop, like I say, back in the late 70s. Some guys started it as an ice cream shop, and it's now massive. I mean, I think more than, I don't know, 4,000 outlets. I think it's probably a lot more than that, 40,000. I can't remember, but you can Google it. So yeah, that's quite something. So something else which I've never seen anywhere except here in the Philippines, and certainly not in Europe, or the States or places like that, is the size of the packets of some things, like this, for example. So that there is 2 packets of conditioner for your clothes, and that is 2 packets of washing powder for your clothes. Excuse me. So just to give you an idea, there's my cigarettes. So it's almost the size of a packet of cigarettes. Well, compare that to the smallest packet that you'd buy in Spain or the UK or wherever else. Well, how about that? That is actually 3 packets of shampoo and conditioner. Well, just to give you an idea of the size of it, that's my cigarettes. They're just minuscule packets of all sorts of things here. It's very strange. The one thing I noticed here at 7 o'clock this morning was a noise, music blaring out at 7 o'clock in the morning. And it was a couple of minutes later I realised there's a church 100 yards up the road, and that's where it was coming from. Well, I was aware that karaoke and videoke is super popular here. Every man and their dog loves to do karaoke and videoke here in the Philippines. But even the church, and this is a very religious country, 80 odd percent Catholic. It's the only Christian country in Asia, and the 5th largest Christian population in the world, I believe. But yeah, 7 o'clock in the morning, the local church is blaring out happy clappy songs, which I don't know where you live, but certainly in most parts of the UK, and I'm sure most of Europe, you'd get some snowflake complaining to the council about noise pollution or something. But here everyone's quite happy with it, and I'm sure most of the villagers were probably even there at the church. And lastly, but not least, is the people here. The people here, and many of them are really poor. They live in little ramshackle houses built with bamboo and tin corrugated roofs, so they've got very little, but they must be the happiest people on earth. You always see them smiling. They're super friendly, super polite. Everyone calls everyone sir or ma'am. It's most unusual. You don't see people with a smile on their face, and that's one of the nicest things about being here. They're so welcoming, so friendly. It makes it a pleasure to be here. Anyway, that's it for today, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this. Please feel free to comment on any of the things. Give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon.